All right, welcome back to the Powers on Sports podcast. I'm your host, Jason. We're back again for our World Series preview with our man, Chris Perez, two-time MLB All-Star closer with the Cleveland Indians, also played for the Cardinals and the Dodgers. Great career for Chris, and we've started with, I believe, what do we start with? 14. We're down to 2 now. So we're down to 2. Neither of our picks have made it, I don't believe. I think we had Seattle. We've had full carnage when it comes to the picks, but we have one chalk in the American League. The Houston Astros have taken care of business. They swept the Yankees. And then we have the stunner of all stunners, the Phillies, the 6th seed in the National League, take care of the San Diego Padres in 5 games to set up a Philadelphia-Houston World Series. Welcome in, Chris.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's definitely it's been weird over in the NL.
For sure. Let's go to the championship series first, and then we'll get to the World Series. Let's go back to let's start in Philadelphia, the San Diego, Philadelphia. I mean, just I was really surprised that San Diego couldn't get at least one of those 3 games in Philadelphia.
Yeah, same here. It kind of went in San Diego. Kind of went like I thought it would. I said Philly would have a good chance in that first game, being on the road. San Diego's bats just didn't show up really. I mean, not like they did in the first 2 series. And I guess you have to give some credit to the Phillies pitching. They're getting some really good. Their bullpen's coming together right at the right time. That was a question mark most of the year, but now the Alvarado's throwing good, and they got Robertson in the back end, and Sir Anthony Dominguez, and those guys are definitely on fire right now. Rangar Suarez is coming out of the pen. He's making starts. He's doing it all too. So they're getting timely pitching from their bullpen, just enough starting pitching, and their hitting is definitely carrying them right now. But they're hot.
Yeah, let's go to the game 4. The kind of the wildest game of that series. First time in like 100 years that neither pitcher gets out of the first inning. You have San Diego scores 4 in the top of the first, and then Clevenger can't get a freaking out in the bottom of the first. How demoralizing is that for a dugout when you guys? I mean, whether it's a playoff game or regular season, when you go out and score 4 in the first in a big game, and then your starting pitcher can't get a freaking out.
It's terrible. I mean, it's almost like you want to tell them you got one job, right? Like you can't even get an out. I think the moment it just got away from Clevenger. I mean, he's a good pitcher. He's a veteran. He's been in the playoffs with the Guardians before.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just one of those things. It's unfortunate. You never want to see it in the playoffs, but if it's a regular season game, he probably stays in there and maybe figures it out, and maybe goes 4 or 5 innings, gives up 5 runs or something. But you can't take that chance in the playoffs. You have to try to get somebody new in there, and that game was back and forth all night. And then obviously it ended the way it did. But I mean that atmosphere in Philadelphia too. That it seems more like a football atmosphere than it does baseball. Those fans are definitely giving their home team some energy, and it does make a difference. Players, we're humans, right? And when you definitely want to play in the best atmosphere possible, and when it's your home team and it's your home crowd, and I can't imagine how loud it was when Bryce hit that home run in Game 5, and he showed like no emotions going around the bases either, like a stone cold killer. But those players have been waiting for that for their whole career, and to be able to perform at home like that. They were able to overcome Nola's bad start. So that kind of, they did it all in that series. They played good defense. They had timely hitting. They hit. Schwarber's bomb in that Game 1 was. I think it's a Petco record. Yeah. They're all coming. It's kind of like watching the Braves last year. It's all coming together at the right time. The Braves, they had to replace their whole starting outfield last year, and then I don't think they got over 500 until midway through August. And then, they ended up winning the World Series. They catch fire. Their bullpen was nasty last year, just like the Phillies is pitching this year. So, that's why baseball is such a great sport. You can't really – that's why they play the games. They even after 162 regular season games, you think you might know a team, and then all of a sudden for a month they get hot or they don't get hot, and you're either advanced or you're eliminated. So that's why playoffs are so fun.
Managerial question for you. To me, Game 4, the game was such a wild back and forth. even after it was 4-3, San Diego, it gets 4-4. San Diego, Soto hits the homer to go up 6-4 in like the 6th inning. To me, that you and I have talked about this. Closing the game's not always in the 9th inning. To me, Suarez and Hader have to be in that game when it's 6-4 or something earlier in that game. You can't wait to the 8th inning to get Suarez and Hader in the game. To me, if you have to close the game in the 6th inning, you have to close the game in the 6th inning. Were you surprised that Suarez and Hader, one of those two, weren't in the game earlier in the game, especially in that game 4?
I wasn't surprised about Hader. He's more late in the game, but Suarez for sure. He's like your bridge, like you just like you say. It was a back and forth game, and they blew the lead early, and then Soto hits a big bomb. You're like, all right, it feels like San Diego's going to take control of this game,
and you leave Manaea in the game.
Right. That's what I mean. Like that you would think like this is our, especially game 4, if we lose this, we're down 3-1. It's not as bad as down 3-0, but it's almost as bad. So it's almost a must win, especially on the road. So you would think that just to bridge you for the next 1 or 2 innings, you bring in Suarez, maybe your offense tacks on a couple more runs.
Right.
Now you're up 4 or 5 runs maybe because they were swinging it good. And if you keep that lead, then that changes who the Phillies bring in. So it's like I said last week, you can always have 20/20 vision. But then Melvin made the same mistake the next game.
Yes.
He didn't bring in Hader to face Harper with the game on the line. I know it's the 8th inning, but now they're sitting at home. I know it's just one of those where I don't know Bob Melvin personally, but maybe it's one. This is what we do all season. This is what got us here. Kind of like what we were talking about the Rays earlier in the playoffs, like when they pulled Snell. Yeah, I mean, do you switch it up and change it mid-course because but you got obviously it didn't work out for him. I mean, some big hits by the Phillies and I mean, obviously Rhys Hoskins came through big and then Harper in game 5. So that's when it comes down to execution. If Manaea goes out there and throws 2 or 3 more hitless innings, then he's the stud of the playoffs for the Padres, right? Like. That's why when you're on that stage in that arena, you can be the hero or you can be the zero. And the Phillies executed and got the hits when they needed off the guys, and then the Padres didn't.
Yeah, it was too questionable bullpen. I mean, like I said,
but like I mean, you trade for Hader halfway through the year, like.
Why, and if you're going to get beat by Harper, it has to be by Hader. If Harper's going to beat you, it's got to be lefty on lefty with your number one guy.
And they were even saying that during the broadcast, like Harper was getting closer to that fastball, and I think it was Francoeur or somebody who was like, he needs to get it higher, or maybe not Francoeur, it was the other broadcast.
Ron Darling.
It was Ron Darling saying he's flirting with danger. He needs to get that about higher than the belt, and then boom, it was there, and he didn't miss it.
And I know Suarez has had a good year as a setup guy, but Hader's your number one guy, and he's lefty on lefty, which is a little bit of an advantage as well.
And that's a must win. Like that's elimination. Yes. There's no chances for second guessing. Like the Astros on the counterpoint, they're up 3-0. They leave McCullers in the 5-6 innings. He gave up 4 or 5 runs, but they can afford to do that because they had that
exactly.
3-game cushion. When it's an elimination game, like there's no coming back tomorrow. So Hader didn't even get in the last 2 games. Like it's just
crazy.
It's almost like I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago the Braves got eliminated and Kimbrel was warming up in the bullpen back when he was unhittable.
Yep.
And they gave up a big bomb in the 8th inning. I think it was David Carpenter gave up a big bomb while they had Kimbrel warming up. He didn't even get in the game. So use your bullets. I mean, you can figure out if you bring in Hader there in the 8th, you get out of it, then you figure out the 9th. Right. And then if you lose that way, well, at least you use your best bullets and you go down swinging. All the cliches, but I'm sure they're definitely second guessing themselves in their internal meetings this week.
All right, so Philadelphia wins 4-1. Let's go to Houston and the Yankees. Not that we expect the Yankees to win the series, but I think everybody was a little surprised they got swept. Houston, again, like just what a experienced, nose to the grindstone kind of team. I mean, they don't have the best offense in the world, but they get timely hits. They got Bregman or Alvarez, Altuve. I mean, those guys, and Altuve's really not even hitting, to be honest with you. This kid Pena, the shortstop, is really was MVP of this championship series. Just your overall thoughts of the Astro roster.
Honestly, I hadn't seen him play that much this year. Being in the AL West, I saw a couple of games on the national broadcast. They're a much better team than I thought. They play great defense. They're kind of selfless. They don't really they pass the baton. They don't really have to be the hero every night, and that takes a lot of pressure off them. You mentioned all their hitters. You left out Gurriel. He's a solid hitter. Like
Tucker's a good player.
Tucker's good. Yeah, they're just solid. I mean, they even have Mancini hasn't even gotten a hit for him, and he's the 4-hole hitter for the Orioles most of the year. So like, they're just put together pretty well. Their bullpen is better than I gave them credit for. They're kind of like the Rays, they get guys from other teams and then they figure out what they do best and they accentuate it. Like Hector Neris was with the Phillies, nothing special. Always had a great arm, but his numbers were nothing special. Goes over to Houston. They're like, well, why don't you throw your fastball a little more and I'll make your splitter better? And boom, now he's shut down. He could close games for some teams now. So they have everything going on. They got the mojo. They're getting different contributions on every night. Alvarez was hot earlier during the playoffs against the Mariners, and now this last series, Pena had the big home runs against the Yankees.
Bregman hit the bomb.
Bregman got a big hit against the Yankees too in that elimination game. He actually got the go ahead RBI in right field, if you remember. And yeah, I mean that. And the scary thing is Altuve, who's like the postseason MVP for them the last 4, 5, 6 years, however long this run's been. He hasn't even gotten started yet, which is scary. If you're the Phillies coming in, you're like, geez, man, these guys have, and they haven't lost a game. Yeah. I mean, they're 7-0 in the playoffs. Verlander looked like Verlander in Game 1 last series. McCullers is a solid. He's got tons of playoff pitching experience.
The Christian Javier guys pitched in Yankee Stadium twice this year, and they've no-hit him, and they've given up 1 hit in the 2 games he started.
So that tells you he's got some ice water in his veins. So coming into this series, they have to be the favorite. I mean,
right?
They have home field advantage. They won 111 games during the regular season. They have a great manager who's been through it all, and it would really be, they have all the storylines. Really, the Phillies are trying to play, underdog and upset dog, but all the storylines are with the Astros. The cheating scandal,
right.
Being able to come back from that. So yeah, I mean, rolling into the World Series, they got to be feeling pretty good. They're not tired. I mean, they played 7 games in 3 weeks almost. So they're definitely set up to the best. But like I said, that's why they play the games. You never know. Bryce Harper could have an all-time series, and then we're talking about him being one of the best players ever and winning a World Series, and the Phillies come out of nowhere. So, but I do give the edge to the Astros.
Let's go to the Yankee side of things. Again, obviously, the Yankees were kind of a feast or famine team all year. Either hit the home run or they don't. Bader played really well in the series, but other than that, not a lot of production out of Judge or Stanton. They had some injuries, no LeMahieu, no Benintendi, which would have helped. Talk about, Garrett Cole. Again, you can question is Aaron Boone taking Garrett Cole out of the game too early? I know they were losing, but still, he's your number 1 horse. Do you take him out of the game? Just your thoughts about the Yankees.
The Yankees are who we thought they were. I feel like, the last 2-3 months of the season, they played pretty much 500 baseball. Their offense, the last decade or so is built on the homer. They don't really have guys that set the table too well with speed or like the Guardians have that are contact guys that get on base. They have guys that work counts. Right. They might walk. They hit doubles and home runs, and that's hard to do in the playoffs. You need those guys, those Bregmans that will go the other way that gets a hit or Gurriel that just takes what the pitchers give you. And the Yankees also, if you look in that series, they were changing their lineup too. They for a team that had almost 100 wins,
right?
They had so many question marks coming in. I mean, Kiner Falefa was in shortstop. He wasn't at shortstop. Oswaldo Cabrera played shortstop for Game 4. Like the leadoff hitter was always different. It started with Judge, and then by the end of it, it was Harrison Bader, just because he was the only one hitting really.
Right.
So for a payroll the size of them, and they have a lot of holes, and this offseason is going to be very interesting for them. Garrett Cole.
You think does Boone survive?
Me personally, as a player, I think he should. Yeah. I mean, he had a great season on paper. And then you always have to ask who else is out there. New York's not the easiest market to manage in. Sure. He played there. Now he's managed there for 4 or 5 years. Like I would keep him. I mean, he's actually done well for what they have. Like they've had so many injuries up and down their roster. I think that's what their undoing was this year. Honestly, was their bullpen injuries. You lose a Chad Green. That's a hard guy to replace. they had guys come and go that did a good job, but they were, Clay Holmes had a great season, but he's unproven.
Right.
And he's not the reason they lost, but just little, LeMahieu not being in there, he's one of those hitters that makes that lineup deeper.
Chapman melting down, Chapman with a meltdown, off the field,
not being with the team. There was just a lot of distractions, and unfortunately, it caught up to him. Garrett Cole, he's a great pitcher. He wasn't that lockdown, one-run ace like the Phillies have with Wheeler and the Astros have with Verlander and Valdez and Javier. So, I mean, like I said, the Yankees are who we thought they were. The games were close. I mean, they battled. They're a professional team. And when you have Judge, I think a couple swings, a couple win, shifts here and there, and it might be a different series. That game 3 in Houston, he almost tied it up in the 8th up against the wall.
Right.
Game four in Houston or in the Yankee Stadium, he almost hit it out again. So
yeah.
He's a scary player, but they did a good job of keeping him in check, and the Astros, I mean, they swept him. So that's pretty much, that doesn't leave a lot of room for interpretation of who's the better team there.
Right. All right, the $350 million question. Has Judge played his last game in New York? Do you think he's gonna, or do you really think he's seriously looking at leaving?
I mean, if you're the Yankees, you can't let him leave. I mean, he's a generational talent. He just beat the all-time home run record for the AL.
Right.
If you take him off that team, like what kind of identity do they have? I can't even think. They don't have one, right? He is the Yankees right now. I think he wants to stay. I'm not. Is Boris his agent? I'm not sure.
Somebody's going to make him a huge offer. A lot of people think the Giants potentially. Somebody's going to make him a big offer that the Yankees are going to have to match, I think.
And he is a California boy.
Right.
He went to Fresno State out there, so he is a Bay Area kind of guy. The Giants have a lot of money. They've been kind of sitting back the last couple of years. I know they had a good year 2 years ago. This year, not so much. But I mean, he looks like he is the Yankee in my mind. There's no better city to be playing like he is than New York. It's a different atmosphere. He could walk anywhere in Manhattan right now, and pretty much he has a city.
Don't be surprised if the Mets make a big run at him too.
I heard that earlier this week too. I mean,
with the owner and the new owner in New York, the Mets.
I know he'll spend some money. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. He's in recent memory, he's played the best that anybody I can remember. He bet on himself huge, and won. I mean, I don't think he could have had a better season except maybe win the World Series, and then then he would have even more leverage. But I definitely think the Yankees are gonna. I think they're gonna make an offer, pretty much like you said. They're gonna see what comes through, and then they're gonna make a serious. They have to keep him. I mean,
I would think.
I don't even know where the fans would do. Like I said, they have no identity without him right now in this era of Yankees baseball. He is the Yankees. They have a lot of question marks, and maybe he sits down and says, this team's got a lot of holes, and if I take suck in $300 million, where do we go? We need another pitcher. We need a shortstop. They have a lot of holes. The Cardinals made that decision with Pujols, and they let him walk.
They did,
and I think it turned out for the best for the Cardinals. They saved all that money. They still made the playoffs year in, year out. Who knows? I mean, Yankees are different though. That's a different media market too.
And the other thing people don't realize, Judge is not 27, 28. He's 31. Oh, no. So he's gonna want 9 to 10 years. Are you gonna commit to him to 41 years old?
Exactly. And that's a big guy. That's a lot of back that could go wrong. And, when you get older, you start having those hamstring issues. He's been injured in the past before.
Yep.
Coming off a year that he played mostly in the outfield, which usually he DHs. So maybe that took an extra toll on his body. He's definitely peaking right now. So you're buying at the top. I don't know. It's interesting. If you take away the hearts and everything, I'm sure if you sit down, the Yankees will say we would be a better team in 4 or 5 years if we don't sign him.
Right.
But how do you explain that to the fans who buy the tickets? We just got rid of the guy that just hit, he won the home run crown by like 20 home runs in the whole league.
And especially when the Mets are coming. It's not like the Mets are in the toilet. The Mets are coming, and they're probably 1 or 2 guys away from winning a World Series.
And that owner's not going to stop spending money. Like
Right.
he's like the Dodgers. Like he's going to win eventually.
Right.
How much will it cost them? But yeah, it's a good point. I mean, you have to win that city, right? How bad would it look if he left for the Yankees to go right across town to the Mets? Like,
wow, right.
I mean, like if the Mets outspend the Yankees in an offseason like that, that's just like the Yankee fans have to come with a lot of different realities. Then, like it's not the same Steinbrenner Yankees.
You're right. All right, let's go to the world. Let's go to the. Give me a prediction here. World Series starts Friday, which again, you got another 5-day layoff, which could be a factor. It's going to be good that both teams can set up their pitching perfectly, no issues with the pitching. But 5 days off, you expect that to curtail the hitting a little bit. Harper's been scorching hot. Schwarber, Rhys Hoskins, especially with the Philly hitters, they've been really hot.
Yeah, I think the layoff definitely affects the hitting more than it does the pitching. Verlander this time of year is 39 years old. He can use the extra day for sure. Wheeler, he's been throwing a lot of pitches, high leverage. He could use an extra couple of days for sure. So it's definitely
some time off for sure.
All the bullpen guys. I mean, the Astros are actually doing all right, even though they covered that 18-inning game with the Mariners. They're actually doing pretty good.
But the Phillies needed the time.
Yeah, Sir Anthony's been used a lot. So yeah, it's going to help the pitching for sure. Just get healthy and feel good. Hitting wise, you want when you're in that zone, you want a doubleheader the next day. You want to get those at bats. The last thing you want is to have a 5-day layoff where you're not seeing live pitching and not getting that adrenaline going. So
what do they do? Give us a little behind the scenes when you have a situation like this. Do they bring in a minor league guy to throw batting practice to the guys? I mean, what do they do to give them as close to live pitching as you can?
That's exactly what they do. Either a minor league guy or somebody that's on the I guess they call it the taxi squad now, in case if an injury happens, you can bring in somebody. So yeah, somebody that just missed the playoff roster, either a starter, maybe your number 5 starter. You do you do live BP, and basically here it is. But it's not the same.
Right.
You're not getting those inside fastballs like you are in a real game because you don't want to hit them,
sure.
and you don't have that intensity. And there's no fans in the stands. So it's kind of like a spring training, first couple weeks, you're out there facing the hitters, live BP. But I mean, you have to keep your eyes sharp if you're a hitter. So it's hard. That's got to be one of the hardest things they're going to go through right now is that layoff.
From a pitching perspective, are you guys throwing a couple days during this 5-day layoff do you have somebody just standing in the box and you're just throwing pitches to work on different stuff? Or what are you guys doing?
Honestly, everyone's different. It depends on your workload. If you've been used 5 out of 7 games, or if you pitched every game of the playoffs, probably don't want to. You might face a batter or two on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then take the next couple of days kind of slow. If you haven't been used as much, you might be one of those guys that are throwing that that scrimmage game. Everyone's different, and at this time of year, everyone's hanging different too. So. Javier might be a little more tired. He's a young guy. It's really his first time going so deep in the playoffs. He probably might throw a bullpen and then, play catch and be like, I'm good. I don't need any more. Verlander, 39 years old. He's probably not facing hitters during the week. He might throw 2 bullpens to get ready just to keep that arm lubed up, as they say. But everyone's different. Every team's different. The Phillies have a lot more inexperience in the playoffs right now. So, they're not used to pitching this late in the year. They might not have any of their guys facing hitters. They might just have them kind of resting up and getting ready for the battle.
All right. Who you like?
I'm going to go. My predictions have been so bad. I'm going to go with the Astros 4-2. Okay. I think the Phillies sneak it out somehow. They kind of have the mojo going, especially at home. But the Astros are just too deep. And, any night it could be somebody else that gets the game-winning hit or the game-winning home run. Phillies, it's a little more top-heavy. The bottom of the order has been doing well. Stott's gotten some hits for them.
Segura.
Segura is a solid pro. Baum's solid. But, I mean, it's basically Harper, Schwarber, and Hoskins right now providing the power. So I'm going to go with the Astros 4-2. I think it's Dusty's year. It's kind of like, I mean, it's a feel-good story. He's been around so long. He's been so close management-wise. I think it's his year. Verlander, they're just loaded. They got a lot of options. And you never know who's going to be the star. You always need somebody to step up that you're not thinking of, and they have a lot of options that could do that. Even on the bench, Chas McCormick, Trey Mancini could come in and have a huge pinch hit home run or something. So I just think they have more options.
I'm going the other way. I'm going Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think the mojo at home. I think the man with the interim manager, he's come in and just turned the entire culture around after replacing Girardi. I'm going Phillies in 6. I think Harper's going to be the MVP.
6, all right.
Yeah, I think it's. I haven't believed in Philadelphia the whole time. I mean, I've bet against them every series, but something about that crowd, something about Harper with that team and Schwarber. I'm going to take the Phillies and Rob Thompson in 6 games.
Well, you got your Phillies red shirt on, so that should have given it away. And you would have made some money too, taking the opposite of what I picked. Taking the opposite of what I picked, so that's not a bad pick, I guess. I also have a little heart. I mean, the first base coach for the Phillies is an ex-college teammate of mine. His name is Paco Figueroa. So if they would win,
cool.
That wouldn't be so bad. At least I know somebody that's going to win. But it's going to be interesting. It's baseball. It's that's why they play the games. And Wheeler's you're gonna face Wheeler 2, maybe 3 times in a series.
Right.
I think he's going to come back on short rest. It's the World Series. Nola's looking for a bounce back. Maybe Syndergaard steps up.
Right.
He's been in the World Series before with the Mets, so maybe he throws a gem out of nowhere that nobody's expecting, and maybe they can get it done. We'll see.
We will see. All right. Speaking of your former teammate, your Hurricanes are sucking and blowing right now down in Miami. I mean, Mario and company, man.
I thought it was a baseball podcast. You're bringing that up.
8 turnovers against Duke. Are you kidding me?
Duke's a smart school. Maybe they I don't know. It's almost like now I just want to see how bad it can go. Maybe flush out everything. But I thought that's what we did last year. Damn. It's not looking good. Not the first year that Mario wants down there. In the way Miami fans are, we're so fair weather. Like I actually feel bad to see what the stands look like in the next couple of games. It's going to be embarrassing, and that affects recruiting. The SEC schools, they may have a bad year, but those stands are still full. You're still getting a great game experience. It's just a tough situation. We were talking a little before this started. All of Florida right now is kind of struggling in that football aspect. With the NILs and the way the TV is now, you can play anywhere and get into the NFL. If you're from small town Alabama, you have 3 schools within 2-hour driving distance where you can go play and get drafted. It wasn't like that 15, 20 years ago. So times have changed, and Florida, unfortunately, we haven't kept up.
That's right. All right, who you like in the national college football playoff? Top 3 or 4 teams. Who you like?
Well, obviously Georgia is I think right now ahead of the class. Their schedule's tough though, so they can still get a couple losses here if they don't bring their game. Clemson
go down with Tennessee next week.
That's a big one. Then they also have the SEC championship game, and Florida. I don't think Florida's going to give them a problem this week, but you never know. Tennessee, they score a lot, and SEC's not used to that. They're not used to having to outscore opponents. They're used to having to out defense opponents. So that's a big game. That's might be the game of the year in the SEC so far. Other than that, I mean, if you look at the schedules, Clemson really hasn't. They've gotten through the teeth of their schedule pretty much.
Right.
Miami's not going to give them a problem.
Clemson can't win it all because of the quarterback. They might make the playoff, but they can't win it all. I don't think.
No, the wild card's that freshman they have.
If they go to him.
I think Dabo would. You remember a couple years ago at halftime, Saban switched up the quarterbacks in the national championship game. I think Dabo, he coached under Saban. He's got almost some of those same kind of qualities. If Uguala starts struggling a little bit, and maybe the ACC championship game, watch out for that freshman.
Right. Who you like? Ohio State, Michigan.
I like Michigan better. Especially with those Big Ten, all the games are outdoors. The weather comes into it. Ohio State's offense usually gets throttled down in those kind of situations. Yeah. Michigan's defense is legit. They got NFL guys. They have just enough on offense, I feel like, to get it done. So my playoff teams would be Georgia, Clemson. I'm going to go with Michigan. I think they're going to get out of there out of the Big Ten. And then I think another SEC team, either a 1-loss Tennessee or a one-loss Alabama. If Tennessee beats Georgia and gets to the SEC championship game, and Alabama runs the schedule
and beats Tennessee,
then we have 3 1-loss SEC teams possibly.
That'll be crazy. That'll be crazy.
That's tough, and
because they're all three not making it. They're all three not making it.
All three are not going to make, unless you have a 2-loss Big Ten team, maybe.
Like if that ain't. Yeah, they're not making it. 3 SEC teams ain't making it.
3 1-loss SEC teams should make it. Like, that's the playoff. Those teams are the best in the country. If that's what happens.
Can TCU get out of the Big 12 undefeated?
I say no. There's always one of those wild games where the Big 12's nuts. I mean, the games could be like 17-16 in double overtime, or it could be like 75-68. It's like some weeks the defensive coordinators don't show up or something. But TCU, they look good. I haven't actually looked at the rest of their schedule. They're going to have to go undefeated. There's no way a 1-loss Big 12 team can compete with a 1-loss SEC team, or even a 1-loss Michigan or a 1-loss Ohio State. I just don't see it happening. Out west, I mean, USC, that they stubbed their toe big time.
Yeah, Oregon looked good against UCLA, but they're not going to make it with the Georgia. They're not going
to. Georgia, yeah, we already saw that game. Like I know it was the beginning of the year, but we already saw that playoff game, and they got smacked. It wasn't even competitive.
Right.
I don't think they get another chance, unfortunately. That's just how it is. SEC's, I mean. Yep. It's the king. It really is.
They're going to get 2 spots. It's what the other 2 spots are going to be, I think.
Exactly. And I just think Clemson, they started in the top 5 and they haven't lost. And they might have a close game here and there, but they pull it out and their defense is legit.
Yeah.
They're going to get their chance. And then obviously the Big Ten, it's just their strength of the schedule is better and they play better defense. Those are my picks.
All right, buddy. Great job, man. Appreciate the time during the baseball playoffs. Man, you did a great job. We'll get you back on even when it's not baseball season because you know your sports, man.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right, Chris. Have a great week, man.
You too.